morning, everyone. It's Saturday, which means it's time for yet another Salty Saturday morning. I am your belabored producer, Matthew Kadish, producer of the Salty Nerd Podcast. And joining me, as always, today is my fantastic panel of nerds, starting with Matt Vader74. Smash that thumbs up button himself.
Smash it. Smash it. Smash the thumbs up button. Smash good. Yeah. Here we are. Another Saturday morning. What's up, buddy? Hello, guys. Hello, chat.
We got a lot of exciting stuff to talk about. Brian from the Popcast. He's here. He's queer. He's our representation and our shield. How you doing, Brian?
Ready to party, big boy.
Right on. Brian, you got anything new going on over there in the Popcast land?
I got a video coming out on Sunday. We interviewed Todd Stashwick, Captain Shaw himself. So that's going up on the Unleashed channel in its entirety. Shane was like, don't edit it. I'm like, I'm not going to edit it. Even the parts where you don't look good. And he's like, oh, well, hold up. Let me look at it. No. You said air it unedited. I'm going to do that. So you guys are going to want to see that. I
hear Mr. Stashwick is a big Dungeons and Dragons fan.
Yes. Yeah. We're in the interview. We're in his, I think he called it a nerd lair. And we're sitting at his custom gigantic Dungeons and Dragons table that has like light up torches, and there's a giant dragon head above the table that is
awesome.
That is spitting out colored smoke. It's insane. It's the most insane thing I've ever seen in person. Yeah, he's a good dude. And then a couple days after that, I think we have another Prime video. So
okay. And joining us yet again from his underground lair is Professor Sean Collette, otherwise known as the Crabapple Critic, good friend of the show, who we met at a Star Trek convention. So we consider him a bit of an expert, not just in filmmaking, but also in all things Trek. And we're going to be talking about a lot of Trek today, so we figured it'd be a good idea to have him on. How you doing, Professor?
I'm doing all right. I'm glad to be here. It's this 10 o'clock in the morning thing on the Saturday. It's like, oh boy.
I know, right?
Yeah, I'm glad to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Yep. And joining us from Valhalla itself, the Allfather, Odin from OMB Reviews. How's Lent going, Odin?
Oh, Lent's going pretty well. I always get triggered, though, when you say good morning, because it's 1 in the afternoon here in the East Coast. So you take your good morning and shove it.
I'm sorry, there's more of us West Coasters over here, bro.
Like,
yeah,
you people live in the
4-1.
You live in the future, man. It's weird. I don't get it.
Yeah, things happen for you way before they happen for us. So.
Yeah.
Anyway, we want to give some shout out to all those who have joined us early morning in the chat here. Mr. Anthony Mark, he's always the first one in the chat. Good to see you, Anthony. Then we got Danny's mom, Penny. Good to see you, Penny. The Orlando Dragon, Cheery Kane, Gary Banjos and Witch Worthington. Idlari, the Astro Nerd Boy, a member of our $100 club and our second biggest ever super chat dropper. Hello, Astro Nerd Boy. Thank you for joining us. Our resident super sticker donator, Gavin Blackburn, is here. We've also got John Kakaza, photographer extraordinaire. We actually have to thank John for one of our stories this morning. And we got Goran Faith, Tim Tringle Jr., Doomed William Dimmers, and Kenneth LaRoque. Grotto Rabbit, Darth Maul is in the chat. Chris Dennison, Alex Moore, JT Gunn, Late Night with Cap. He's here. Everyone send JT some positive vibes. He lost his beloved pet recently. And we all know how hard that can be. So much love to JT. Grotto Rabbit, Craig Daniels, Professor Sean Collette is in the chat and on the stream. We got Shorty Short and Nadia from the Up All Day Inside All Day podcast. My apologies.
Oh, Nadia's here. Welcome.
Yes, she's actually going to be visiting the studio next week. So
welcome.
She's actually my neighbor down here somewhere. She lives in my neighborhood.
Yeah, you guys are very close by, but we want to give some props to all of our top contributors. So we have a new top super chat space. Scotty Dubb came in with $111 super chat last week, so he now has the top super chat title. Bob Dorsey has now dropped down to just the $100 club, and Astro Nerd Boy is also in that $100 club. These are all supporters who have given us $100 or more in super chats in one super chat. So we really appreciate those guys. Thank you so much for the support. Of course, Joker, Fluffy Panda are some of our most consistent donators. They're always dropping us some super chats. We appreciate that. And Backyard TARDIS is our top super thanks person who he goes on all our videos, gives us super thanks. So really appreciate the support. But our top contributor out of all of them, the guy who's given us the most money over time, is now Scotty Dubb. We really appreciate Scotty's support of the channel. He's been very generous with both his time and money. He comes in, participates. So thank you, Scotty. And thank you, Astro Nerd Boy, as well. I don't want to forget you, because Scotty just beat you out by $1 for that top super chat part. It was kind of a dick move, but he did it. But we want to
$1, Bob.
Yeah, $1. We want to also like just shout out the Astro Nerd Boy for his support as well. That's really good. So before we get going, I just want to let everyone know that we have a new sponsor for the next 7 weeks. It is Extra Wallet, and Extra Wallet is if you're like me, like your wallet's like this big, because you just keep all the receipts and stuff in there, and so like you're like literally leaning when you sit down. Extra Wallets is actually half the size of a normal wallet. It's very slim. It's made from like a combination of Italian leather, space grade aluminum, and carbon fiber materials. So like it's very sturdy and it's very sleek. It holds up to 12 cards and cash in addition to that. Very slim and sleek design. You can see. Let me blow up Brian here real quick so you guys can see that.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's a really great wallet. It's got RFID blocking technology, so it can prevent people from hacking your cards remotely. And it also includes a tracking card, which, like, if you've ever lost your wallet and like the terror that goes along with that, you can actually track your wallet down now and find it. So, like, if it's stolen or lost or like whatever, you just use this card.
This thing slides in your wallet, and you can just pull your phone out and find your wallet.
Yeah, it comes in really handy if like you accidentally misplace it or you got drunk the night before and left it at the bar, and you can just find your wallet that way.
It's a chance to own your own spider tracker.
Exactly. I mean, like,
government's watching me.
You don't tend to think about like designer wallets if you're a dude. Like I got like the trifold thing that served me for like decades. But these Extra Wallets are actually like really, really nice. I know that there are a couple other competitors out there, but these guys are like the Cadillac of like the new style of wallets. So like if you guys haven't gotten this yet, please be sure to go to shop.exter.com/thepopcast and put in the promo code ThePopcast at checkout, and you'll get 25% off your order in addition to whatever other specials they got going on there. So you can get one of these wallets like pretty affordably right now. So I'd take advantage of that. And if you're interested, the link is in the description. So like you can just go there, like we'd give you the promo code and the link to go to and all that good stuff. So shopexter.com/thepopcast. Thank you so much for sitting with us through that sponsorship. But we got to keep the lights on somehow, right?
Amen to that, brother.
Yeah. All right, so we got a couple things that we're going to talk about today before we get to our Picard and Mandalorian reviews. Buy gold and silver. It's recession proof.
You need to buy gold and silver because it's recession proof.
If you want a wallet that can hold all your NFTs, no, I'm not going to go there.
I'm also very angry with Crowder right now because Crowder took my silver guy.
If you have all of your codes on a card, then yes, it can fit in your wallet.
Yes. All right, guys. So the big news this morning that just hit Twitter is that the sequel to Shazam just revealed in their latest commercials that Wonder Woman's going to be in the movie. And we actually have a little kind of ghetto video thing here.
Well, technically, it was a Japanese commercial. I don't think we were supposed to see it.
Well, it's in.
Yeah, I thought it was like a Japanese spot or whatever.
Obviously, like Shazam was shot before the whole shakeup at Marvel with James Gunn, and they thought that Henry Cavill was coming back, and so it makes sense that Gal Gadot would reprise her role as Wonder Woman in this magical realm. So we are going to get to see Gal Gadot at least as Wonder Woman one more time. I'm actually kind of surprised that they did this, but I think that their metrics are telling them that there's not a lot of buzz for this movie, and it's coming out really soon. And so they're looking for ways to garner interest in getting people to see it.
That's the only reason.
Yeah, Odin, I wanted you to kind of take the lead on this one. What do you think of them revealing this, like, quote unquote surprise cameo right before it?
It's absolutely everything to trying to sell tickets, because the early projections are that the opening domestic is going to be like $35 million or so. I think the recent ones had it somewhere between 35 and 45, which for those that don't know is abysmal for a movie like that. So they're not expecting that film to make money, at least based off of the early numbers. And so they're basically like, okay, even though this is probably going to be, I think it's going to be a very small part of the movie, like very, very small, because I remember something similar happening with, it was another like DC or another, no, it may have been a Marvel film where there was it was like the post-credit scenes that were being shown in the trailers because no one had any interest in the actual film. And so I think that might have something to do with it. Maybe it was like Venom 2 or something.
That's Morbin. It's Morbin.
Oh, it was Morbius? Yeah, it was Morbius. And they were like, oh, yeah, by the way, all this stuff. And it was like, yeah, none of it happened until the post-credits to try to sell more tickets. So I think that's exactly what they're doing here. Based on what it looked like, it could be in the film, but it could also, that could be the post-credit stinger too. So it would not surprise me at all if they were doing it solely to try to bump up the tickets. But as we all know, people, actors, characters do not sell tickets anymore. And it's, again, something that these people in Hollywood just don't seem to understand. Just by showing that itself, yeah, you may have gotten maybe less than a percentage of people who were not interested who are now interested, but that's not going to make a difference one way or the other.
So I actually have some information on that, and this is not spoiler territory because it was a rumor, but it was given to me by a source that never been wrong. But Wonder Woman is not just because I actually heard about this months ago. I have a video on it on my DC channel. But Wonder Woman's not in the movie just as a cameo, because they're fighting like the Greek pantheon, right? And so it's right up there with Wonder Woman's lore. And there's a moment in the movie, I'm not going to spoil it for anyone, but there's a moment in the movie that's very important, and literally only Wonder Woman in her existing canon can save the day, and that's the reveal. So
it's just one moment.
Well, no, there's a moment that's very important, and if I say what it is, it'll ruin it for someone.
But as far as like length of time, that's what I'm going for. Like,
right? Well, yeah, but it's not like an end credit scene. Like, she's actually in the movie as an important figure in the movie, because they're
for like
fighting
5 minutes.
I don't know how long, but okay. It's long enough to be important, because Shazam is fighting like it's the Greek pantheon. It's literally a Wonder Woman crossover movie. So she's in the movie for a significant enough time to make a difference in the story. So that's what's important.
All right, real quick, we got a super sticker from Gavin Blackburn. I want to call that up real quick.
Yep.
Just holding up the one finger is what it's doing.
Just the one finger. $1.99 super sticker from our super sticker extraordinaire, Gavin Blackburn. He's always very generous with those. Drops them every stream. We appreciate it, Gavin. Thank you so much.
Blackburn.
Professor Sean, do you even care about Shazam?
I actually enjoyed the first one. I really thought it was well done. It was done in a kind spirit. I thought the actor was great. I was getting flashbacks from the 80s with Tom Hanks and Big.
Yeah, but, Zachary Levi is awesome.
I enjoyed it. I think when it comes to these superhero films, I don't tend to enjoy them when they take themselves so seriously. This is why I'm still such a big fan of the Deadpool thing. I mean, I can't wait, for them to do that again, because there's somebody in the movie to help, me with making fun of the movie. And I enjoy that. So, but yeah, I actually enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to seeing the sequel. I thought it was, pretty good. I hope the predictions are wrong. I hope that it does do well.
So, guys, I had dinner with a gentleman from the UK, from London, as a matter of fact, the other day. And the subject of Harry and Meghan came up, and he said that most people in the UK absolutely hate Harry and Meghan right now.
Give us some privacy.
Yeah, they just think that they're scum of the earth, that they're opportunists, that they are just slandering their own family for fame and fortune. And it turns out that Harry and Meghan are probably broke as of this weekend. So I don't know how much you guys follow this type of news, but basically Silicon Valley Bank, or SVB, has collapsed. And basically what happened was they did a bunch of bad investments. They bought a bunch of bonds that weren't yielding as much as they should have been. And with the Federal Reserve raising interest rates and stuff like that, the SVB bank basically put out a statement that worried investors, and it created a bank run. Now, SVB, for those of you who don't know, they're like one of the top banks for tech startups. So like if you want to start up a tech company in Silicon Valley, you go to SVB and they give you like a startup loan and stuff like that. So this was like a very kind of like niche bank. It was very important to Silicon Valley startups. And Harry and Meghan actually put most of their money in this bank. And when it collapsed, like the California Fed basically had to step in and freeze all the assets to keep it from like, completely going under. So basically they lost all their money, and it's insured, but it's only insured up to $250,000. Yep. And apparently they had like hundreds of millions in this bank.
So did Roku. Roku had $480 million in there.
A lot of people had a lot of money in this bank. And so like the news this morning is that a lot of these people who had like hundreds of millions of dollars in this bank are now going to lose all of it except like what was insured, which is up to $250,000.
Oh man, for Roku especially, man.
Yeah, and it's saying that
it's only a quarter of their cash reserves though. So they're
still a quarter.
I mean, it's a quarter, but that means they have almost $2 billion in cash. Did you know Roku is that big? Jesus.
Yeah,
they're pretty big.
They are pretty big, but the interesting story here is that it looks like Harry and Meghan aren't even going to be able to pay their staff because they lost so much money.
Oh, they have a staff.
I weep.
They have a staff. Oh no!
Don't you hate it when that happens?
I'm crying in my dirty towel as I clean my house for the.
They're not going to be able to pay their servants.
Oh. According to iSource News, it says that Harry and Meghan may not be able to pay their expenses following the collapse of SVB. ISN has learned the bulk of their funds are now locked up in the failed institution. It's a complete disaster, said a person familiar with the situation. And on top of this, guys, Oprah lost close to $600 million with this bank.
Oh, so she lost her kitchen gadget money.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, she could look in the couch cushions and make it up, I'm sure.
She lost her Uber Eats account.
Actually, honest question, though, about Oprah. How, like, I feel like she has to be one of the richest persons in the world. Where is she on that list? Does anyone know?
I think she's a billionaire, but I don't think she's one of the richest people in the world.
Yeah. The United States, at the very least.
Yeah, but she does have a lot of money. But sources say that Harry and Meghan are preparing to sue their financial advisors over the failure of this bank. They're claiming that they were misled about the level of risk they were being exposed to by depositing money in this bank. If anyone's been in the crypto market for 2 seconds, they're familiar with this type of feeling. So
don't you have to have money to pay lawyers to sue somebody?
Yeah, so, that's a good point.
Yeah, they're screwed, man. They're gonna be crawling. They're gonna be crawling back to King Charles. Bring us back, please.
Hello.
Please, sir.
Harry and Meghan have decided to keep the amount of money that they've lost due to SPV failing confidential.
Of course.
So we may not know how much they've lost, but apparently it was pretty much all of it.
Yeah, this is what happens when a bank only invests its money into Bored Apes. And then when the Bored Apes market crashes, everyone loses their money.
Yeah.
Well, you know what was funny about this, Brian, is that they invested like hundreds of billions into bonds. And the minute the Fed started raising interest rates and they were locked in at these like 1% things, 1% bonds and stuff like that, basically the Biden administration's inflation screwed them over.
Oh, wait. So you're telling me that there's now been 2 bank collapses under the Biden administration in 3 years?
But it's not Biden's fault. There's no inflation. There's
clearly Trump's fault.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Yeah, clearly.
There's been 2 major bank collapses in less than 3 years. That must be a record, right?
They're saying this is the worst one since 2008. and that a lot of people were afraid this was going to start off a chain reaction that would cause other banks to fail, kind of like what happened with the housing crisis. But the government stepped in quick enough to basically shut everything down, stop the bleeding, and isolate this. So like there is not going to be a cascading effect to other banks. That was the initial concern, that all of our banks were going to collapse overnight. But apparently, like, it's just this one. So like all the tech billionaires and stuff like that are out some money. A lot of celebrities are out money. I don't think this really affected normal people because this was such a specific type of bank. So like it's not like grandma had her pension in there or something like that.
The crazy part about all this is that they're just getting smashed on after thing because King Charles just kicked him out of their home, their house that they use in England, because he has to have somewhere for his loser brother to move into. And I just feel like they're just going to get lost because these British people, they're a little bit nuts about this stuff, because they had Harry's great grandpa or whatever, he's the one that got exiled for marrying that American lady, right? And he just moved over and effed off to France and like just kind of got forgotten. And so Harry and Meghan, they're on that path to where they're going to be living in a 2-bedroom house in the suburbs pretty soon, and they're just going to be completely forgotten
until Netflix offers them a deal.
Yeah.
They already had a Netflix deal, didn't they?
Yeah.
They just wait for the other one because now they can do the SVB story, and then you're gonna have a lot of people that love this stuff that will watch it, and Netflix will think, "Oh, this is our next big thing."
So for everyone out there wondering, yes, Matt Vader is an expert on the royal family.
No,
he is
not really
obsessed with this stuff.
He cares. He cried for days after.
I'm not buying the whole separation from the royal family thing. I think. And I'm not going to believe for a second that they're going to wind up being paupers. It's just not.
Well, they won't be paupers. But these they're kind of vindictive, man. You turn your back on the family. It's like mobsters. They all turn their back on you, and you're exiled. You're done.
I don't really think that what we're being given is the real story. I think this is a publicity. I'm not buying it, and I'll tell you why. Because usually things like this are kept hushed because of potential problems and other things. And this has gotten so much publicity when it happened. It just seems like, every news channel was willing to feed this beast. And I'm just, I don't see anything really. Yeah,
but that's nothing new. Everything.
Oh, I know that.
Everything the royal family does makes news.
Exactly. And I'm not. I'm just not believing that they're completely exiled. I think that they're still stuff we're not being told. But I'm definitely not believing that they're ever going to be broke.
He's the spare prince. He doesn't matter.
He's the spare prince.
He's not even in line anymore because William has his own kids. He's just like they can just go fuck off somewhere and be forgotten, and that's what they're gonna do. So it's a very strange dynamic to me. I bet, it
is. But I like I said, I'm just not. I think there's a lot that about this story that we're not even being told, and I think it could be a very well a publicity thing because now they do have something on Netflix to actually talk about.
Yeah, Meghan yokoed the royal family. That's what happened.
You've been yokoed.
Yeah.
I love it.
We got 2 super chats to get to real quick. First from Astro Nerd Boy for $5. Don't worry, our tax dollars will certainly bail out Harry and Meghan. At least $250,000 of them would. Yeah,
that's like one missile that we send to Ukraine, so no problem.
Yeah, it's not really a big deal. It's a tiny fraction of what we've already given to other countries.
Yeah, that's how much it costs to shoot down a balloon.
Yeah, it is. That's pretty close.
It's literally
not even a spy balloon, just like a regular balloon.
When Biden goes to the bathroom, that's probably what it costs. Just in his security team and his nurses and all the people required to sort of get him up and out of the chair.
It depends. Replacements. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And for Mexican Iron Man for $9.99, Silicon Valley Bank is a female CEO-run super woke tech bank. Right before they collapsed, they were doing a female Latinx initiative. EFF that bank, or F that bank, and all the tech wokesters. Go woke bank, go broke. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Actually,
this might be the biggest example of go woke, go broke, and ever.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, very apropos.
Yes.
Funny. You know, Brian, since you are Latinx,
Latinx.
how do you feel about that?
Latinx.
Latinx.
I was really looking forward to that Latinx event.
Is that a blow to your people?
It is definitely a blow to all the three of us Latinx people. You know what's funny? Most Latinx, you tell a Mexican, you tell my wife, you're part of the Latinx community. She's gonna be like, "What the fuck is the Latinx community?" Like they're Mexican, they're Spanish, they're whatever. Like they don't refer to themselves as Latinx. Like you tell the veterano on the corner making tacos and smiling that he's Latinx. He's gonna laugh at you. He's gonna laugh you down the street, dude.
You know who uses the term? Rich white liberals.
That's it.
Right. No Latinx people.
When they talk about their Latinx staff, that's how they're mowing the grass.
I have many Latinx supporters.
My wife never uses the term, and she is. You know, she's. You know, so I don't ever hear it except for in the news.
Yep. I said my sister-in-law, same thing, and that doesn't happen.
Never hear it.
Hey guys, I have to apologize. I waited too long to go to the bathroom, and now I gotta.
No!
Which brings us to our next story. Special shout out to John Kakaza, who basically sent me a DM on Twitter with a link to this.
And he has the best version of it, by the way.
Yeah, he actually edited it. So for those of you who don't know, and it's very fortuitous that we have Odin on this stream. So on Friday Night Tights this last Friday, they had a special guest, Gavin McGinnis. He started off his career as the editor at Vice. He was a shock jock. He's infamous for starting up the Proud Boys, which initially was supposed to be a joke, and it kind of took on a life of its own. But Gavin McGinnis was on Friday Night Tights, and at a certain point in the stream, he leans into his mic and says, "Oops, I waited too long to go to the bathroom." He then stands up with his dick out and literally starts pissing on camera. And then mic drops and exits the thing. And everyone else on the panel is just like, "What the fuck just happened?" And it was funny because immediately, like you could tell, like both Gary and Jeremy were not amused. They were like, "Oh shit, like we're gonna get banned off of YouTube," because they were playing with fire just having him on to begin with. And so instantly everyone was like, "That was fake, right? That was a fake dick." And I was like, "No, it's pretty obvious that was that was really his." You got to see the fat upper penis area and everything on there, the ball sack.
Oh yeah, I zoomed right in on there, man.
I zoomed in and I captured
the video John showed me zooms in on that thing. It's like, yep, like that's real. But I gotta respect FNT for taking these chances. It's almost like they're daring YouTube to basically demonetize and ban them. But it doesn't help when Gavin does this. So Odin, your face when this happened, like you're just sitting there, like everyone's covering their mouths. You're just like, "Oh my god, what am I doing on the stream?" Can you tell us what was what was the energy going on at that moment? What was happening there?
So the funny thing is before I even jumped on the stream, because I always jump on late because I take care of my son and I wait until he goes to bed before jumping on, and I had already gotten two individual people separately related, or either separate from each other, saying, "Hey man, you probably want to skip out on this one. You probably don't want to be associated with this one." I was like, "What?" And I was like, "No, I'm FNT is my family. Like, I'm gonna be on the show." Like, and I was like, "I can't see how you could possibly have something said worse that has not already been said by someone who's even on the panel." And then of course the show happens, and when that happened, all of us were just kind of in shock. I know I was like, "What in the hell?" Like, I did not think that was actually going to happen. But then I think everyone kind of also because Gary was definitely he was laughing, but it was one of those things where he thought it was funny, but he was also like, "Oh dang it, why are you doing this? Why did you tell me?" He was like why didn't you just tell me this before, because then we could have cut away and it would have still been funny, but you wouldn't have
well, it was funny because Quarter Black Garrett, he's supposed
had just gone away
and he had just left. I think Gavin was just waiting for that moment where he knew he could get away with it. But it's funny. I want to show. So this is right after Gavin just fucked off, after he walked off camera, and Chrissy Mayer's reaction, she was blindsided by this.
Yeah.
You can see like both Gary and Jeremy are cringing. Shad lost his shit. He thought it was the funniest thing in the world. Ryan Kendall's just sitting there like, oh dang, like that was a big move. Especially because like he was talking and Gavin interrupted him during that point. And poor X-Ray girl,
X-Ray had the best reaction because at one point she's like, oh, what?
Yeah, she was like, that was fake, right? That was
cut
fake?
the feed. Cut
fake?
the feed. Cut the.
I look at everyone's reaction here. Like Shad's just losing his shit, and everyone's just like, "Was that real? Did that actually happen? I don't know."
I think Jeremy's the one that's just cringing out the most internally. That's pretty funny.
Jeremy's a businessman. He's like, this will not be good.
Yeah. What we thought the most hilarious thing about all of this was, I'd missed apparently there had been like a big debate prior, because one of the big things that Gavin talks about is about how childish comics are and how adults shouldn't be reading comics and doing all that other stuff.
His comics take were so boomerish. He's
yeah,
super boomer.
but then this happens, and so it's like even before that he farted into his microphone.
Oh my god!
And then he did this, and so it's like, okay, so any points that you had made that anyone would have maybe agreed with you on, and with that audience, not many would have agreed with him on that take in the first place. But any of that grace would have just been, and it was, right? It's completely gone, because it's like you can't call someone else childish and then do stuff like that,
right? Because
do you think he was trying to be ironic, though? Do you think he was trying to be ironic?
I was not there for the very beginning, so it was hard for me. I don't know exactly what the overall sentiment from him was. I know that he can be very much a personality that tries to say things just to get the conversation going and to not necessarily be serious, but it seemed to be. And that was crazy too, because there were a few other things he mentioned in the stream that actually I was like, that's a good point. Like he mentions things about divorce and other things. I was just like, okay. And then it's like any of that goodwill though, just
yeah, it's like he has good things to say, but he wraps a lot of it in like nonsense, really hot boomer takes that don't really make any sense, and then he does crazy stuff that, and you're like, oh yeah, I sort of agree. Like his no fap thing is actually genius. If you could do it, go for it. There's good things he says, but then he around all the good things is a bunch of crazy crap and very hot boomer takes. Like his takes on comics were like almost offensive to me.
Yeah.
I don't even know who the guy really is. I mean, I think I've heard the name a couple of times. Who is he? What does he do?
He was the president of the United States about 6 years ago.
So really? Sean, he was a former editor at Vice magazine. He had his own show on, I believe it was The Blaze. I could be mistaken. But he most famously, so like he was kind of a shock jock or like a political commentator, but he most famously started the Proud Boys, which is like they're now labeled as a hate group by the United States government, but he started them as a joke.
Yeah, it was a dare.
In response to stuff like Antifa and things like that. And it kind of quickly grew out of his control. In fact, he got kicked out of the Proud Boys very quickly.
Kicked out of the Proud Boys.
Group. Yep.
Yeah, and
he
now
he's proud enough.
Yeah, and
now I guess.
Yeah, I mean, now he's just kind of like back to his shock jock ways. It looks like.
Yeah, and that's what it comes across as, is that it's shock jock, but even then, like it was one of those moments too where it was like, that's why like it was funny because of how shocking it was. It was just like, that's why I'm laughing, because I'm like, what just happened? What in the world I can't believe that I'm on a YouTube channel where that actually like happened. And all of us felt that way, just like, and that's also where that back of the mind of, oh gosh, like don't let this be the one thing that like gets the, and that's why the video was and Gary even announced this during the stream, right? He privated the video after, cut that part out, and then re-uploaded it. So he said other things too and did other things that many people probably thought offensive, but we kept all that in because we're not about censoring things unless they're things that like that, which rightfully
I mean it wasn't just nudity, it was like a bodily function as well.
Yes.
Well, he's urinating on his own equipment.
Yeah.
I mean, that's. Do you think he was on drugs or something, and he'll wake up the next morning and go, "Hey, somebody pissed all over my desk."
What's funny is the most offensive thing to Professor Sean is that he messed up the equipment.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, no, it's just the idea, the logic behind it. If you're going to be shocking, do something where you don't have to like take responsibility for it later. Like if you're going to do something, leave it for someone else to clean up. That's shocking. What he did was just stupid and probably offensive too.
And
but
risking
come
other
on.
people's channels to like
Yeah,
everything else
exactly.
prior. It's funny because, you know, in the aftermath, all people really see is what's on social media. Because I remember even Matthew reached out after, was like, I heard about this, all the stuff going on. But honestly, I was watching the chat the entire time I was on, and it was very split. Like even after that, obviously more people thought like that obviously was too far. Like it was just night and day. But as far as all the other stuff he had mentioned, it was very 50-50. You know, and so I think that is an interesting concept too, because we never really dropped viewers really at any point either. So
well, I know that in the aftermath, a lot of people on Twitter are very upset with him because they're like, this could have gotten like Nerdrotic banned or something like that.
And that's why
we're upset about.
You know, he sounds kind of like a dick.
But you know,
Literally.
on the flip side of this, you know, like this is the most attention I think since Alex Jones that FNT has gotten, and the clip, somehow people clip the part with like his dick out, and it's been making the rounds on Twitter. Like a lot of people are seeing this, and
because we were still monetized throughout the entire rest of the stream, never lost demonetization. Like it was not until the video was privated and then eventually removed. But like, you know, it's just amazing to me that there are certain things and certain topics that will get you like insta banned or get you like instantly your stream gets shut down. But like, yeah, something like that happens, and you know,
maybe it was because he had just such a little dick, and it really and they didn't see it.
He was a grower, not a shower, for sure.
The algorithm didn't catch up.
That's another reason why I didn't think it was fake, is because like you know, those fake ones are some links to them.
I mean, they didn't catch it in real time, and you guys removed it before it could be caught. So,
and that's the reason why people could clip it, though, because you can clip things in real time. And so, since we had the rest of the show, people were able to go back and clip it. So,
right,
yeah, but it's definitely getting a lot of attention.
Just whatever we do, don't do that on my stream, guys, or else we're gonna have a problem.
No streams on the stream.
I would be so upset if I was Gary. I would be so upset.
Of this group, I don't think anyone has to worry about that happening.
Were you privy to any of like the after show conversations? Like, what were people saying like once they went off air?
Well, I am, because I'm in the show, but I, you know, won't speak for anyone else because it's not my place to speak for anybody else. But it's very, very, you know, I could just say in a general sense, it's the, you know, some people thought it was, you know, the entire thing was just, you know, bad because of the audience reaction. But then also, like, I was just, again, the fact that I was looking at the audience and the reaction, the vast majority of it up until that moment, it was very 50-50. So I think that really the long-term impact, I think, will be more so the beginning with the comic book discussion, because that is where the fans get brought in, you know? So like, I think that, and I think ultimately it might be a good thing because Jeremy, you know, making good points, and Ryan, of course, making good points in defense of it. And so obviously it's going to be remembered mostly for the infamous, you know, showing, but I think also too that ultimately it's definitely something. I will say this much: we definitely started looking into how do we create because it's interesting that YouTube doesn't have this, but a way to have like a delay where you can. It's like a what's it called? It's
a little latency delay,
ejection, or basically something to where it's a having delay, so that way you can actually like blank out the entire stream for that moment, so that way it ever shows.
Yeah, there's an OBS extension that actually lets you do that, but you have to set your latency to not low latency, whatever the other version is. And there's like an 8-second. You're like 8 seconds behind.
Yeah,
you can press a button and it goes back 4 seconds and just wipes it.
Yeah, and that's what we were looking into after, because like we never really had to ever, and we probably for the foreseeable future won't have to worry about that ever. But it's a good thing to have, like, because anything technically could happen at any point, right, that you would want to have something like that, especially like I'm thinking more natural disaster type thing where it's like you don't want to have that show. Well,
I know that Brian was asking you, like, did it hurt the views or the replays that the original went private and then like you had to re-upload it?
Because again, the views on it were actually, again, the viewership never really dropped. Even after that, we were still at like well over 10,000 viewers, which again is still like amazing. I can't believe I'm a part of something where it's gotten like as big as it has. But
I'm talking about like the
I haven't looked at the
right?
views for, because it was literally within an hour or so. I mean, this is a shout out to Quarter Black, because the dude was able to get all this. He was able to get the entire stream, the edited version, up on Nerdrotic Live. So it's up on Nerdrotic Live. You can watch the entire thing, and all that's missing is that one part. So, you know, I think that's just it's a pretty amazing thing.
He must have been recording an offsite then.
Right now it says 24,000 viewers.
Yeah.
For that episode.
Yeah.
Weird.
I can't get over Shad's reaction to it. He seemed to be the only one who actually enjoyed what had happened.
Well, it's that shock mentality. I mean, because I was laughing too. It's not because I thought like, oh man, this is really funny and this is how comedy should be. It's like, I don't know how to react because it's so funny, because both me and him are both religious. And so I think that's probably what we were both experiencing was,
there was no ads last night.
No, I don't, because since I came on late, I didn't.
I think he would have lost his mind.
Oh yeah,
he would have lost it.
Yeah,
I think that would have been a good reaction. But anyway, don't whip your junk out on live streams, guys. It's not cool. It's not cool at all.
Especially if you're like endangering someone's livelihood and channel and all that
right.
stuff.
Yeah,
like
you don't mess with a man's money.
Yeah,
there's a couple things you don't do. You don't mess with a man's money. You don't mess with a man's wife. And most recently for me, you don't mess with a man's soak time. If I want to soak, I want to soak. Okay.
Oh, your soak time? God.
Stop using all the hot water. Sorry.
Oh,
I got a personal thing going on over here.
Oh boy, we better get that trigger button ready.
You know what, guys? I really
we could see a beating on stream. We could have to come and start whacking you in the head.
Stop using all the damn hot water.
No, I was going to say to you, saying like,
yeah.
This
don't talk about me on air.
real quick here, Danny. This is true. This is very true. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, you know what? At least Gavin stuck to the topic, though.
That's right.
Okay, guys, before we get on to our Picard review, I just want to remind everyone in chat, if you guys want to drop us some super chats during the course of the show, we will stop everything to read them out. And you'll also get your name on the ticker down below, because we want to give everyone recognition for supporting the show and stuff like that. So we really appreciate everyone who's dropped a super chat so far. Gavin Blackburn, the Astro Nerd Boy, Mexican Iron Man, you guys are awesome. Thank you so much for that. So if you guys like what we do here and you like our conversation and our panel, help us keep it going by supporting the show if you're able to. If not, just participate in chat and maybe tell other people about the stream so we can continue to grow our audience here. All right, so moving on, let's talk about Star Trek Season 1, Episode 4, No Win Scenario.
No win.
Or I'm sorry, Season 3, Season 3, Episode 1.
I ain't going back there.
Yeah, we're not talking about Season 1 anymore. So I watched this early in the morning before I had to go to this convention, and I gotta say, I was blown away by this episode. Yeah. This episode was so freaking good. There are a couple of things I want to highlight. So first of all, there were so many payoffs in this episode, and even things where like I didn't quite know where they were going. By the end of the episode, they paid off. So I actually sent a message to Terry Metalis and said, dude, this is the best episode of Star Trek I've seen in decades. Bravo, sir. Like you really knocked it out of the park with this. And he got back to me. He was like, oh, thank you, man. Spread the word about it. So I want to take this opportunity talking about this to actually spread the word about. I am now a convert. I am fully in Brian's camp.
Welcome to the fold, disciple.
I want Terry Metalis to have my babies.
Yes.
There were a lot of really great moments in this episode, and yes, Star Trek still has the stain of Kurtzman on it, but I feel like this episode gave us so much good stuff that like I actually forgot about all the crap that we've been fed over these last couple of years from Star Trek. I like that it started off right away with like a Riker and Picard kind of like confrontation after like the end of that last episode. Riker kind of came in and justified why he acted the way he did. And we've seen this whole thing with Riker where basically he got away from his family because he was feeling like super depressed about the death of his son and how he doesn't feel like there's anything after death. And so like there's just this kind of mortality thing that he's going through where he shuts off his emotions. And when you're married to a woman whose entire job is empathy, you know, like she can feel everything. And when she feels nothing from him, it feels very distant. So like he got away because he thought that was the best way to, you know, serve her and his daughter. And also like his whole motivation for running away from the Shrike was because he's afraid of death and he doesn't want anyone else to die. And because he doesn't believe in an afterlife and stuff like that. And so like, he just had this very cynical outlook in it. And it kind of put all of his decisions in a very different light. And by contrast, Picard, now that he has a son and he realizes this, the reason he was pushing so hard to turn and fight was because he wanted to save his son, right? Like he wanted to stand up and fight for his son so that his son has a chance to live. And so it was like Riker and Picard were just coming at the same situation from two very different places, and they totally forgot their history with one another because of that. And so that's what I liked about this episode is that it kind of fixed that up. But man, like there was a moment in here where I got absolute chills. And that is when like, you know, Beverly figures out what's going on with like the nebula. She takes it to Jack and Picard. They take it to Riker and they come together and they say like, there's a reason we're all together. And you realize, you know, especially through the flashbacks, that Jean-Luc Picard made it clear that you can't do everything by yourself. You need a good crew. And it's the crew dynamic that came together in this moment and created a way out of the no-win scenario. And when that happened and the little next gen music kind of kicks up, dude, I got chills down my spine. And then so like there was this great buildup where, and this is what I love about this series so far, is there's actual setup and payoff. There's this great buildup where they tell the story about the original Jack Crusher and Picard, who were best friends when they were younger, and they got in a situation where they were like in a crippled shuttle and they had to like kind of limp their way back to safety, with Picard piloting and Jack Crusher navigating. And at the end of the episode, when Picard is given command of the Titan and he sits down, he does the whole engage thing. Again, chills moments. But him and his son, the namesake of his best friend, are in that exact same scenario where Picard is piloting and Jack Crusher is navigating. And there's a moment where Jack is like, wait 4 more seconds, trust me. And Picard fucking trusts him. And it fucking works. And then we have the Riker maneuver where they use the tractor beam to grab an asteroid and fucking fling it at the Shrike. And it was a payoff to when the Shrike threw a fucking starship at the Titan.
It wasn't just random.
And there was this great moment where Beverly was like, "Did you just throw an asteroid at that ship?" And Riker's like, "You're goddamn right, I did." And that was a fist pump moment for me. But the one thing that really stuck out to me on this episode, before I get to the rest of you guys, I'm sorry I'm gushing all over this stuff, but
you're ridiculous right now.
I got to get it out of my system, man. So the best part about this show, this episode to me, and this is something that I've complained about in previous seasons of Star Trek Discovery, Star Trek Strange New Worlds, Star Trek Picard, Star Wars, pretty much everything that's been bad in the last 10 years or so from fandom. This is the one thing that I wish more shows would do. So there's a scene in this episode where basically the Titan is limping along. They have like no energy to spare. They're shutting down all these systems. And Picard takes Jack to the holodeck. And of course, it's the 10 Forward bar in Los Angeles and stuff like that. And as soon as they walk in there, I'm like, wait a minute, how is the holodeck still operating? Like they're rationing out energy. And then not a second later does Jack ask that same question, and Picard gives him an answer. It's just one line of dialogue where he's like, so every holodeck has like its own like private battery for moments like these, so that when facing death, the crew can find some type of comfort before they die. And it was just a single line of dialogue, but it addressed the stupid nature of that situation. And made it make sense within the context of the story. And you just need to do that every single time a writer comes up with something stupid for the show. You just need to explain it with one line of dialogue to the reason why that happens. And as soon as they did that, my critical brain, I was like, okay, I accept that explanation. Now I'm back into the suspension of disbelief and I can enjoy the rest of the show. And the show did that very clearly throughout the entire episode. And I wish writers would take a lesson from this and do that consistently in their shows. You just need one line of dialogue to just explain a reason why something illogical happens. And then the audience will go along with you. It doesn't take a lot of time and effort. And the last thing I will end with is that Shaw fucking ruled this thing. We got Shaw's backstory with Wolf.
So good.
With Wolf, what was it, 259 or 952?
359.
359.
Yeah.
And it totally explained his reasoning for hating Picard, not trusting 7 of 9 and all this other stuff. But again, Shaw steals this show. I'm such a Shaw stan. I can't stand. Okay, Vader.
You are ridiculous, sir. Before I get going, and I'm not going to take nearly as long as you did. I want to go back and acknowledge a couple things here. First off, Danny, thank you so much for that $2. Appreciate you, buddy. And then Kenneth LaRoque, we got a new membership, guys. Hit the join button. We have memberships now, so we do have some tiers there with some cool stuff. You know, I know I'm not very good at shilling this stuff, but Kenneth, thank you so much for hitting that button. And all of a sudden, dude, we have a new ticker board leader.
Yep.
Oh man,
Bob Dorsey.
I'm gonna have to go fix this thing again.
Yep.
Bob Dorsey for $115. My God, thank you so much, Bob. You want to read it?
Yeah, keep up the good work, gentlemen. Despite all the terrible shows you've endured, I believe normies are beginning to awaken to all the terribleness. Bob, thank you so much for the support and the 100. You've reclaimed your top super chat spot, sir. So, thank you so much for that.
That is awesome.
Yeah, it is great. Thank you so much, Bob. Appreciate that.
Because the Dorsey Wars.
Yeah, that is incredible. I'm always just on the floor when people are generous enough to give us $1, much less 100. So thank you again. Matt, you took all the good stuff on this.
Oh, you can repeat it, man.
I mean, it was all excellent. You know, I'm really to the point now with people that if you've actually bothered to watch this show and still don't like it, then I don't know what's wrong with you. Okay. But at the same time, for those of you who haven't watched it, I think you're just being stubborn at this point, because how many of us is it going to take to tell you that this show is good? It's like, yeah, I know it's still got the Kurtzman taint on it. It's like, okay, fine. All right. Then just, I don't know.
It means all Star Trek forever is going to have
forever. It's going to have Kurtzman on it. You know, we're never going to get good Star Trek again. So whatever. You guys be you. I'll go back to that mode when Discovery season 5 comes out. Then I'm going to turn into that asshole again.
Yeah. We'll be back here for that.
It's like, oh God, it's so bad.
But don't you rain on my parade.
Mikey Burnham's going to save the universe again. You know, but who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? I'm just trust us, guys. This is good Star Trek. It's really good.
When I said it alone, I get it. You don't trust me. But now that everyone else is saying it,
I was literally filling up my gas tank to come drive to your house to beat your ass because, but I didn't have to. And this was just like the first act. We have 4 episodes of what could be a standalone movie, you know, and it's just the first act of this series. We haven't even met Geordi yet.
Right.
Geordi hasn't even been on the show or Data or half the people in the trailer. So, you know, it's good, guys. It's good. Go watch it. Go take 4 hours of your life and check it out. But there was some things that I didn't really jive with in this episode. I'm not going to lie. It's not perfect. First off, one complaint that I've kind of had through the whole first 4 episodes, this is a dark show. And I don't know why they have to make it so dark. And I don't mean like dark. I mean like in lightness, like the light levels. It's like we're in a blacked out submarine the whole time. And I think at least episode 4, I think I saw a tweet or something where Terry said that there was actually some kind of like something wrong with post-production and they had to go back and tweak something after it was released on Paramount Plus. Is that correct, Brian?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
So that's
why in the trailer it's like well lit in comparison to, I sent you a tweet, in comparison to what the show is showing. Like something's going on Paramount Plus, they have to like go back and adjust a bunch of the lighting and all that.
Yeah. You know, and there's a lot of stuff in this show that I complain about, but then I read about it like on Twitter. Like somebody will complain about things like, why is the changelings viscous fluid so gross and not like it was in DS9? And then all of a sudden Terry will come out of the woodwork with a tweet and say, hey man, don't worry about it. I'm going to address that in another episode. It's all good. So this guy is like, he's on top of this stuff. It's weird to me. It's watching, like, right? Keep watching. I address this later on. It's like, okay, all right, fine. But there are some things like I had to laugh. I had to laugh. I laughed out loud when Seven is going through trying to figure things out, and they figure out that it's a changeling, and he has to have a pot. He basically has to have a pot with
residue,
residue in it. But so she pulls up a pot on her pad, and it's a picture of a changeling pot, like you'd get from Sears and Roebuck on a catalog, right?
Right.
So she goes and she searches the ship, and she finds the pot, and it's the exact same pot that they took a picture of, right, on the pad. It's like, is there only one model of the changeling pot from the Great Link that they carry around with them all the time?
I assume that they all go to the pot store, and it's like an Apple store, and they can pick
and not many believe the Great Link. So
I like
so funny.
I like Seven's line where she's like, I assume you're not referring to cannabis.
Oh yeah. See that is another thing. I am not okay with Picard and the hard F-bombs. I'm not.
Yep.
I'm all right.
Can't deal with it.
I'm all right with some shit and some dipshittery and some stuff like that once in a while. And even that, I want it super sparse. I don't need rated R swearing in my Star Trek.
There was a lot of swearing in this episode.
And Picard dropped the hard F-bomb, and I was like, it just makes me cringe. If I'm going to take a point away, I'm doing it for that. And it's so, I don't know why Metalis and some of these guys, they insist on doing that. Maybe that's the Kurtzman influence.
That was actually ad-libbed. Patrick Stewart ad-libbed that, and they left it in.
Yeah, I don't like it. I don't like it, and I think it's a
long hours or something like that.
Yeah, so I can't get on board with that. And the other thing that I just really didn't like, I hate this thing where the giant space thing is all of a sudden we're in a giant space creature who's giving birth to a bunch of space spores. Space babies. I don't like space babies.
Full circle though, man.
I think space babies are dumb. I've never liked that in any, not even any Star Trek. Even the only one I've ever really liked was maybe the Tin Man episode, and I even thought that was weird.
It reminded me of the Encounter at Farpoint Aliens.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah. It was like the very first episode of TNG. That was those little aliens.
Yeah. Is that what those were? I didn't even think about that.
Baby versions of the Encounter and Farpoint. Okay. That's why Beverly actually says it. She's like, that was like them trying to remind the audience that happened.
All right. So I guess now to think about it, that is the truth. But yeah, I don't like space critters. I don't really like space whales in Star Trek. I don't need space jellyfish in Star Trek. It's a very, very strange thing to me. But
seek out new life.
But that's it. I mean, this was a really strong episode. It was a really strong 4-episode first act, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing where this goes. So let's do it. Let's go, man.
Yeah, I really wish this had been season 1. Sean, you've been very patient. I want to hear your take on this because you haven't been on to talk about the other episodes of Picard. So give us your overall take on the first 4 episodes.
Okay, I love you guys.
This is how most breakups start.
Show is, and I really don't want to be cantankerous or anything. I really didn't want to be. This show just sucks. It's better than the other 2 episodes, but God, this is terrible. I mean, and it's not because of anything like small little details. I mean, there are detailed things that kind of point to just bad writing, but for the most part, I think one of the biggest problems, I mean, because, they have to do this course correction in order to maintain the license and things like that. I get that. But the only thing that they really corrected, if you think about it, was that they gave male characters back their agency. That's the only thing that they did. The plots are still silly. They don't make a lot of sense. There's not a lot of logic to it. For example, okay, why would this captain that was so traumatized by the events of Wolf 359 and everything like that select a top officer who was also one of the Borg? That
did he select her, or was she assigned to him?
He would have to select her.
No, that's not true.
That's military protocol.
That's not that's not Starfleet protocol. There's many times where officers are assigned to ships.
No, they're assigned, but the position she was given, okay.
No. She was assigned as first officer. Riker was assigned as first officer to Picard in the very first episode of TNG.
But you have the agency to reassign if you don't approve.
Yeah, the agency to reassign. That doesn't mean
he has Picard looked into his past and approved him based on that. Remember, there was a conversation. He said, "I selected you because you stood up to your previous commander." So this was
no.
If he had a problem with her, he could have made sure that she
Sean, you're off here, bro. There's been
I'm not.
There's been multiple story points in Star Trek where officers were assigned to ships and they didn't get along.
They didn't get along, but he knows her.
But they were assigned. That's the point.
Yeah.
The point is that they were assigned. Yes, they could have been reassigned or they could have left, but that's not what happened.
What's her position on the ship?
First officer. So she was assigned to the ship. Now
that's my point. She could be on the ship, but he would not. He would not
maybe
choose
he's trying to deal with his issues.
But he would
not. Brian, let Sean make his point.
I don't buy it.
I mean, the problem is the point doesn't work. Like what you're saying is incorrect.
He would. You choose whether or not your number one stays in that position. Okay, that's just
right. Sure, that might be true, but
that's what I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
Choose your first officer.
You choose your first officer.
You choose your first officer.
Yes,
right.
Because eventually he would get rid of her.
I have so many personal issues. I'm gonna just drop this chick out the office. Yeah, I mean
because of the that's not my biggest problem though. The other problem I had was like in the first or second episode, I think. They had to actually tell the captain of a starship, very accomplished position, how a nebula works. Like he didn't know until like Riker told him how the nebula works. It's like there's been so many encounters with nebulas and things like that he would know the effects that it's going to have on his ship. You just know. So he treated up until the time he was injured and had to be taken away, he was treated like he didn't really know what was going on, and I'm like, I think he deserved more respect than that, because I do like this as a captain. I like him, even though he could afford a few more lights on the ship, so people don't trip when they're running to red alert stations, going to general quarters. But the other thing too was like in this episode in particular, I just thought about like they're all just going to resign themselves to dying. So let's spend some time having some personal exchange moments and visiting the holodeck. It's like, would you really give up? I mean, this just didn't seem right to me. I'm like, everybody's just willing to, oh, well, we're screwed, the hell with it. And, we've got all this technology and we can't do anything with it. But we'll keep power for the holodeck so we can like enjoy it's really a cynical way to look at things. And they don't come across what's going on until they discover it's space babies and everything. And I just thought, really, I did like the asteroid being thrown, but one of the things I didn't understand in the previous episode, episode 3, when they couldn't get away, something that got me was, wait a minute, they used a torpedo to blast the Shrike away, but they couldn't use the same technique to right their position and at least pull them away from the center of the nebula. I mean, why couldn't you detonate one at the front of the ship and blow yourself back? If it worked on a larger, more powerful ship, then it should be able to, do the same thing for you. I was thinking they're in this tumble and they can't use the same thing that they got
Sean,
rid of.
I will say that at the start of this episode, they did say that all weapons were down, like they couldn't use any of their
Well, no,
weapons.
I'm just saying in the previous, instances when they first went into that. But even so, there's a way to get a torpedo out of the chute without, if you've got enough power to keep the lights on, you can open up a bay. It seemed very convenient that everything's shut down and everything except for like I said, the holodeck. It just seemed. I also have a problem with the F-bombs being dropped and it just seems to me more silly writing and contrivances, but at least the male characters have their agency back. That's the only thing that really bothers me, is that the only problem that they seem to correct with this show was they just gave men back their agency. But even so, it's still, there's a lot of member berries. And, I just keep thinking of Gary's, little thing, member, it just, to me, I was like, can we come up with something original? Can we do something different than what we've already seen? And I do have problems with this.
Real quick, I know Brian's chomping at the bit to get to this, and I'm going to get to you in a second, Brian. But we got a super chat from Tommy Reviews for $2. Vader, are you able to call that up?
I think he's muted.
Yeah,
I was go.
Muted. Yeah. I was trying to talk. Right. I was like, "Why'd you cut me off, man?" I'm all blah, 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 blah. But yeah. All right. Yeah, $2. Go ahead.
Yeah, Tommy Reviews for $2. Hale, can you skip seasons 1 and 2 of Picard? In fact, not only can you should.
You should.
Just start with season 3. Yeah. Do not bother with the previous 2 seasons.
Yeah, there's literally no reasons to watch first.
Now, adding to that a little bit, since y'all are making me interested in checking this out, based on what I've been hearing from a lot of people, do you think that you need to watch Next Gen to get the full?
Have you watched?
It's not going to be as impactful if you're not familiar with Next Gen.
Okay.
But if you are going to watch Next Gen, start with season 3.
That's right.
This series.
Start when Riker has a beard.
Yeah. This series is literally a season 8 conclusion for the Next Generation. It's the series that we never thought we wanted, but we got. It's
the finale we wanted. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just, if there was ever, I know you don't like member berries, Professor, but if there was ever a series that needed to use as many member berries as possible, this is the one. Because let me tell you something, these Picard shows were vile. They were absolutely a slap in the face to old school Next Generation fans. They're awful. And the only way that they have been able to bring us back was to make a show like this full of member berries that are respectful to the previous canon prior to this Kurtzman era stuff, with these characters that we grew up with and love. And he's pulling it off. And, I get your thoughts, and I think arguing over, bridge protocol over who can promote who and what is completely beside the point. That's like stuff to talk about on the nerd convention floor. But it's just
I'm just talking about plot, though. That's the
problem.
No.
I get it.
The plots are
totally
just a little bit contrived and convenient, and to me,
and they need to be a little contrived and convenient, because that's what we want right now. We need simple, fun stories. We don't need bullshit discovery stuff.
I would prefer like rather than serialized, episodic, the way Strange New Worlds is going, and especially if this is going to be the last season of this show, why not explore it in a way to where they can have a whole bunch of different adventures rather than. I also don't like this villain. I'm not really impressed by.
I don't think we've gotten to see enough of her to judge her at this point.
I mean, so far what we've seen is kind of silly and like weird and just kind of
real quick. I gotta get to another super chat from the Astro Nerd Boy. Vader, can you pull that one up?
I gotta find it.
It's in the starred. There you go.
I got it.
Astro Nerd Boy for $20. Not only was this episode Wrath of Khan times 100, there were so many great character moments. As mentioned, Todd Stashwick is killing it as Shaw. Seeing how much of a geek he is for real is so awesome. We need a Terry Matalas Shaw. So I would be
I'd watch that
100% for a Shaw series. Like, you have no idea. Like, I love this character. That scene where like him and Seven comes to his quarters and she keeps ringing the bell and he's like, go away, fine, enter. She comes in, she's like, can I talk to you? He's like, no. She's like, can I talk to you unofficially? He's like, no. And she's like, we got a problem. And he's like, okay, fine. And then like he brainstorms with her, gives her all the information she needs to find like the changeling, and she leaves and he's just like, whatever. Like, he's just like, I like
how with Shaw, how they introduced him to literally make us all basically hate him.
Right.
You know what I mean? When I first met this dude, I was like, wow, this guy's a real dick. And I hope he dies in an explosion when they blow the nacelle off the ship, you know? But to this point now, he is a pretty interesting character. And like you said, I think if we're going to go forward in the 25th century, I think it would be fun to explore his reign on the Titan. I mean, don't get me wrong. The only show I ever wanted, if we weren't going to get an Enterprise show, was I wanted to see Riker's adventures on the Titan. Right. I've always wanted that show since Next Generation went off the air. And I really wish they would have been able to do it, but we didn't get it. So, and we're 30 years later now. So let's move on. Let's see some new adventures from these new characters that we.
That's what I mean. Yeah, I would be down with that. You know, I mean, did anybody notice?
But we're getting a passing of the torch sort of a thing. We're getting the old Next Generation, and we're getting set up with a new Next Generation. We're starting to learn about this bridge crew. Geordie LaForge's daughter is the ship's navigator.
Sydney LaForge, yeah, she's
Sydney LaForge. You know, it's just stuff like that I find very interesting, as long as it's not overdone. You know, let's make it interesting and let's move on.
That felt like Demora Sulu, but did you guys notice, like, when they went to cut, you know, like certain power circuits and everything, the corridor lights, they show a shot of the corridor when they're trying to conserve power, and the corridor lighting was really ultra bright, like previous like Star Trek television shows, and then they brought it down to what we normally see on these shows. It was like, I noticed that, I was like, the lighting looks like old Star Trek until they have to conserve power, and then suddenly it goes back to this dark thing where you can't see it, you know, because you're going to trip over.
So guys, I want to move on to get Brian's perspective on this. You know, Brian, real quick, the ending to this episode where Jean-Luc Picard, you know, like the entire episode, we've been flashing back to like his time at 10 Forward, where a bunch of Starfleet cadets kind of come up and they're bugging him for stories about like his adventures. And then we finally see like Jack did seek him out. And when Jack asked him about, you know, a family, Picard says Starfleet's the only family we ever need. And that's when we realized that's when Jack like left and decided to, you know, kind of forge his own path, tragically in a weird way. And I got hit in the heart by that scene, because like it was a very powerful scene. So, you know, all due respect to Professor Sean, I totally disagree with every single one of his takes on this episode.
Those aren't the only ones. Those are just the ones I can think of. But I mean, I just think I don't like convenience and contrivance, and I think the writing, considering these characters, these characters I think deserve a little bit better. And I still have, you know, why even mention the fact that Picard's synthetic or something when that was one of the biggest bones of contentions in the previous seasons? It's like there's no point in bringing any of that stuff up. You could just completely wipe the slate clean.
Yeah, but it was making fun of it, bro. That's the point.
Yeah, but don't even bring it. I mean, because that's giving attention to it. You know, that's giving attention to it.
The attention and be there. You know, you might as well make.
But Brian, you've been saying for a long time, you like, just wait till episode 4, and episode 5 is even better. Yeah. So give us your take on this episode.
Well, you're right. That end scene, when you find out, it's like the whole time I'm watching this, I'm thinking, oh God, I hate the time jump stuff. I don't like it. Like, I don't care about his legacy or whatever, right? I don't want to watch all these cadets simping over Picard. And I'm watching that, and then there's that payoff with Jack and the story, and then there's a payoff in the holodeck with Shaw, and then when they're the Jack Crusher namesake, there's a bunch of payoffs, but then the ultimate payoff was when the point of that flashback was to show who was there the whole time, and it was Jack, and he had that, and he asked that question, and he gets the answer, and his face is like fucking heartbreaking, dude.
And if you notice, so like when they were in 10 Forward on the holodeck, and Picard asked if Beverly had ever told Jack the story about like how him and Jack Crusher, like, his namesake, had survived. He was about to tell him that he was in that bar when he was telling that story.
Right.
He got interrupted by Shaw.
Right.
I thought that was really cool.
Right. And that was really great. Like all of it connected really well. And then when his face drops, and then there's that one more moment where you can every once in a while on this show you can see how good of an actor Patrick Stewart still is, right? Because he still has the ability to emote with micro expressions that are like just deadly in their nature. And when he realizes that Jack was there and he looks at him, that was hard. That was heartbreaking. Really, just really good stuff. Like everything. What I've been saying for 4 episodes now. Everything is hyperlinked, right? Like everything's connected. Like almost every little thing, whether it's a member berry or not, or like I like to call them roddenberries. So there's 2 kinds of member berry. The roddenberry is the member berry that works because it connects to the story in some way and or it enhances the story. And the member berry is just like set dressing. So like seeing the Enterprise C statue, that's a member berry. Seeing two-box game in Seven's quarters, that's a member berry. But a roddenberry is when they're able to connect that to the story in some meaningful way that maybe a fan of TNG, it's going to enhance their experience, but not detract from a new person's experience watching it for the first time. That's a roddenberry for me.
That's a good distinction. I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and to go to your point, Brian, that moment where Picard realizes that Jack was there during that flashback. So like what's interesting about that moment is that Picard realizes that, that's what happened. But Jack, and the lesson there is that like, his Starfleet family was the thing that cost him his real family. Because, Beverly made that explanation about like how the galaxy always needs Picard and I can't protect Picard's son. But at the same time, Jack is realizing that him being Han Solo, essentially like out on his own, has also cost him because he saw the power of having a Starfleet family in getting out of like a no-win situation.
Yep.
And this episode, more than any other this season, takes so many of these story threads that have been kind of like being set up in the previous 3 episodes and just brings them together so perfectly. Like I was really impressed with the writing on the show. Now I want to go to Odin real quick.
12 monkeys, man. I go back to that.
Yeah, we're going to get to that in a second. But Odin, why aren't you watching the show? Like, what is keeping you from
What's
diving
the deal,
into
Odin?
I'm not a
3?
Trekkie. I've mentioned this previously. My only knowledge is DS9 because I watched it last summer and I loved it. And so that's why last week's especially I was very interested with all the discussion of things from DS9 being brought in. But my wife is a huge Trekkie. She loves Next Gen, and so she is definitely also not involved in like any YouTube communities or any online communities, whatever. So for her, she did not hate seasons 1 and 2 of Picard. She saw reasons why some people might not like it, but for her, she just thought it was okay. She didn't think that was amazing, but she thought it was fine. But she's been loving this season and had a moment. I think that everyone says, everyone who liked that last episode said, I think that there's a moment where you just feel like, oh my goodness, this is amazing. So yeah, I am going to eventually maybe watch Picard, but I think I feel like I need to watch a lot of other things first.
I would watch the last couple seasons of TNG. I think that'd be fine.
Well, also Odin, if you want to watch something from the same showrunner, watch 12 Monkeys, the TV series from Sci-Fi. Dude, that series, it's one of my all-time favorite TV shows.
Yeah.
Not only because it's good, but because it's one of the few instances where Hollywood got time travel right.
And that's so hard. It's so
very
hard to
do. Very hard to do.
According to you.
And speaking of,
I feel the same
12
exact
monkeys,
way.
Yeah, speaking of 12 monkeys, so we got some stuff with Jack in this episode where he's getting some flashbacks that remind me a lot, like really a lot of 12 monkeys. Where you got the red door, you got some like red storms with like cityscapes, you got like this weird growing ivy in the background, and it's all connected to what the shifters want Jack for. And we actually got to see what's the villain's name in this, Brian?
Vadic.
Vadic.
Yeah.
We got to see a really interesting scene with Vadic where she basically cuts off her hand, and that morphs into like this like face where she's communicating with like her boss or whatever. And that was actually a really creepy scene, I thought.
Yeah,
and it's very interesting. It's very interesting because they've been hinting throughout these 4 episodes that there's something bigger going on here. Where Seven goes to Shaw and she says there was a shifter on our ship before Picard and all these people even showed up.
Right.
So there's something more going on here that we're not aware of. It just so happens we got caught up in our current situation.
Yeah,
and that's
we got
kind of
caught
tying
up
into
in it. That's brilliant.
Yeah, and that's kind of tying in with Worf stuff. And I want to point out one of the reasons I think this episode's the best so far: no Raffi. No fucking Raffi subplot in this episode. Not once did we go to Raffi in this show. And I didn't realize it till after I finished the episode. I was like, oh man, it's a good episode. I'm like, wait a minute. There was no Raffi in this episode.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons why it was so good.
Yeah,
There was no Worf either.
Yeah, I was gonna say we know Raffi, no Worf.
Gets better, guys.
Yeah.
Raffi gets better.
Yeah, but so I wanted to ask you guys, what do you think's the deal with Jack? Why is he so important?
Can I quickly answer, because I can't actually answer the way they're going to, but I'll tell you this: people that are complaining about Vadic communicating with her bosses via her severed hand instead of the Great Link,
or talk to the hand as we
Talk to the hand.
Right. That like people are saying like, well, why does she have to do that? You don't have to, you don't have to do that to communicate with the Great Link. You can, and I get that. In the words of Terry Metalis, keep watching the show. Like that, it'll add up. You'll understand when you get to that point. So
I trust you, man. I trust you now.
Thanks.
All right, Sean, do you have any theories on Jack?
I why he's so important to the whole, why they're
or what's
all
going on
for,
with him?
Well, the reason why he's so important is to give the show someplace to go, to keep us asking questions and watching. I mean, and
so cynical.
that's fine. No, I mean, that's just fine. I as far as I think he's probably gotten himself involved in some things that that nobody else knows about, and he's probably got some widget or some type of thing on him where I think it could lead to the idea, like where they found out, oh, how are they finding us all the time and everything, and they thought it was because they were venting some type of plasma, which I thought was kind of strange. Yeah, it's like I thought that was kind of a weird thing. I think they're going to discover that it was because there was some other reason that he's got something that he's not telling anybody.
I thought that was pure Star Trek.
That was pure Star Trek. Blood in the water was pure Star Trek.
No babble. It's like, oh, there's a way they're tracking this. Let's find some.
But I think, it's probably because they obviously want him for something, and they don't want Beverly. So if that's the case, then it's got to be something that he's not telling everybody. There's still a secret that's untold by him, and I don't even think Beverly knows about it. So I think that's probably what they're going after.
I think we might have, like in the flashback where Jack has that run-in with the Fenris Rangers, I think something he says in that conversation is a tip-off as to why he's special. Like something about a planet he was at. I forget the exact dialogue, but something tells me that he was exposed to something that is important to this shifter plan or something like that.
Yeah, there's something that he's not divulging, and it's eventually going to catch up to him, and that's why they were able to find him, not just the venting of the plasma.
This is the stuff I hate. I can't even theorize with you guys because, like,
I know you're sitting there going, I want to tell him, but you can't.
I so want to tell you what's happening right now.
Yeah, next time you go over to Terry Metalis' house to hang out, just pitch to him about like how hard it is to not be able to theorize with
you
your.
don't understand though. Like that is like half the fun of like I've been doing this for a long time. Half the fun is being able to like create wild theories on how it's going to go. And we did this last season, and I can't do it this season. It really
we're always wrong.
We're always wrong. But like this season, it feels like someone put like a chastity device on my nutsack, and I can't. And all I can do is sit here and watch everyone else have fun,
Odin.
And I'm just waiting for someone to take the chastity device off. Sorry, Odin.
Oh, that's funny.
Well,
I hear Gavin McGinnis is pretty good at that, but
there you go.
I gotta go pee real quick.
Yeah, gotta go pee. To kind of go along with this line of thinking, I totally the Gavin McGinnis thing just totally threw. I forgot what I was going to say.
You got distracted, didn't you?
I can't hold it any longer, guys.
So strange.
I did get distracted. All right, so let's move on then, since I can't remember my very salient and valid point. Let's talk about Mandalorian, season 3, episode 2.
Oh, goody.
But before we get into
excited.
this, I just wanted to play this TikTok for you guys, which I thought was kind of funny. This is from what do you call it? This is from Discount Bo-Katan, and if I can figure out why the audio isn't playing, let's see here. Here we go.
No, Mom, it's actually not my fault I lost the Darksaber. Oh, shit. Shit.
Oh my god, that looks exactly like the actress. Jesus.
Yeah.
Fucking, how do people say? Oh, hi, I didn't even see you there.
So to me, that kind of encapsulates this episode, where it's just like Mandalorian just keeps fucking up, and then like he tells Baby Yoda like go get Bo-Katan, and then it becomes the Bo-Katan show, and also like at the end when they reveal the mythosaur, I was like, wow, that ended abruptly. I wish that they had kind of like set that up a little bit better. But what did you guys think of this episode? To me, like I'm still like I feel like this season is just kind of like aimless. Like he goes to Tatooine, he buys the first junky astromech droid, completely abandons his quest for IG-11. I'm like, if you could have just bought any droid, if you're going to do that, there were better droids you could have bought to do what you needed it to do, So like, and also they never explained what that giant like fucking robotic thing was that kidnapped him. It kind of gave me some General Grievous vibes, but at the same time, I was like, "What is it even doing on that planet?"
See, and that's the problem with this show, is they're just touching on all these vibes that are like, when we talk about member berries, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is the show that's doing it completely wrong and opposite of what Star Trek is doing.
It's wild. It's wild how bad they're doing it.
It's so bad. It's just, but to address the mythosaur thing really quickly, she did say right before she dove into the water with him up there that about the legend of the mythosaur in the water and how it hasn't been seen for whatever eons. So it's just been down there chilling in the water.
But if you don't know what a mythosaur looks like, you're not going to realize what that was.
But that was their bad idea of payoff and setup. It was just really quick and boom like that, and it doesn't really work. So,
also, Mandalorian fell to the bottom of that chasm really quick, didn't he?
Bloop. Yeah. It was just like there's a cliff right there.
Well, that armor's pretty heavy.
Yeah, but she dove in like immediately after him, and it's like she was already at the bottom.
She knew how deep that chasm was, probably. So it was
crazy,
pretty wild. But this whole episode, this is again one of those shows that I feel like I'm going to watch simply because it's got the Star Wars label onto it. Like I said last week, Star Wars, Star Trek, I'm going to watch it whether I love it or hate it. But man, this show is just it's not jiving. It just feels like it's like, I don't even know how. The Bad Batch, the Bad Batch is better than The Mandalorian.
Yeah, that's a bad sign.
Okay, you know what I'm saying? The animated shows that are playing right now along with this are better than the actual live action shows. There's good writing there. There's character development. There's payoff and there's setup and payoff on the animated stuff. And this live action stuff, it just feels like they're taking a bunch of stuff, putting it in the mixer and spinning it around. And a lot of it doesn't make any sense. Why is Bo-Katan sitting on a throne on this deserted castle where there's nobody around, posing on her chair? It's ludicrous. Her and her droid hanging out, just chilling there. Why do we have to keep going back to the stupid comic relief lady on Tatooine? Is it a requirement that we have to have a Tatooine episode on every single live action Star Trek series?
We have Tatooine is required. It's actually contractually
It's
required.
ridiculous.
To have Tatooine.
It's
No, you're completely.
I don't
right.
know.
I'm trying so bad to like this.
I can't. I can't like it.
Seasons, it's not working.
Guys, real quick from Tom Cruise nuked my account. Grace Randolph, the bastion of journalistic integrity, says
God.
Mando's getting beyond batch level views. Disney in big trouble and Iger putting foot down. Favreau and Filoni way overrated.
Well, Grace Randolph is never wrong.
So, never wrong.
Never wrong.
She is the goddess of entertainment news.
In the words of James Gunn, she's always full of bullshit.
I wish I was better at articulating my frustration with this show, because there are parts of it that are kind of neat. That scene where he's flying in over Mandalore and you can see all the blown out cities and everything, being able to see that in live action versus the animation version of it is really cool. I mean, that kind of stuff is next level. But when you get down to it and it's just, and they go back to the whatever that thing is called where they're filming on the
the projector screens,
the projector screen stuff, and
the volume,
the
volume.
It's just so weird how it feels like cinematic, and then they go back to cartoon. You know what I'm saying? It's very apparent, and I don't know. It's just
I agree with that.
I wanted to present this question to the panel because Mandalorian, he's got to be like in his 30s or something like that. And they say that it wasn't too long ago that Mandalore was like this beautiful place. How is it that our main character, who seems just as old as Bo-Katan, did not grow up on Mandalore? He never saw it in its original state. Apparently his cult that he's in left far before the scourging of Mandalore. So I'm just wondering what's the timeline here? How does any of this line up?
Well, first off, cults like to go to weird jungles in planets and countries away from where they're formed, so they can go be all culty and stuff. So that's probably why he grew up on that other planet, not on Mandalore. They just didn't get to the Kool-Aid section of their cult. You know what I'm saying? And the whole cult thing, the whole Mandalore. I don't get it. Why does he have to be a weird cultist? Why does he have to be a freaking Jim Jones disciple on Mandalore? I don't get it. It bothers me. These weird religious extremists are what
religion's
he's
bad, bro. That's what Hollywood wants you to think.
Well, I'm not really super into a lot of it either. It's just a weird thing to me why that his whole character is a religious cultist, and he has to go bathe in the waters of whatever. It's come on,
bathe in the golden waters.
Yeah, it's silly.
To reclaim my helmet.
But it opens up all kinds of different discussions, but I don't want to go there.
So Professor Sean, you had a lot of harsh things to say about Picard. What's your take on Mando?
Oh, everyone stop.
He probably likes it. He probably likes it.
No. Actually, I mean, they talk too much. In fact, you get more talking from this mysterious Mandalorian character than you do in a Scorsese film. I mean, they might as well have just voiceovered it, because it's every intention, everything he's going to do, he's telling the baby, who's actually the baby's 50 or something and still needs that little thing to walk around in. or hover around in. I just thought that I don't know. With this, I think I mentioned this before on one of the other times I guessed it. I don't think that this character Boba Fett originally, I know it's a different guy, but this was supposed to be something in the background that was mysterious and scary, and that was it. There wasn't supposed to be this whole lore behind it. It was created as a completely two-dimensional thing that just took off, and so now they're trying to, and you say it's kind of aimless, and it is. Because it wasn't really written with anything specific in mind in terms of a past. It was just supposed to be a plot device to kind of, they're looking for, the Millennium Falcon, and they've hired all these bounty hunters and stuff. So I just think that, one, he's talking too much, and two, I think people are just watching it for Grogu. I mean, I think that probably it's just toys.
So I think part of the problem is, and what you're getting at here, is that all of the Mandalore stuff it was all introduced and it was all developed in the animated shows, in the Filoni animated shows. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to mainstream stuff that was introduced in a non-mainstream show that on a streaming service. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When my wife knows Star Wars, she knows the movies. But you ask her anything about one of the animated shows? No, she doesn't know anything about it. So you got all these weird characters that nobody's ever heard of that are on these shows that people aren't resonating with. It's like, I think Bo-Katan's cool. I'm looking forward to seeing Sabine at the conclusion of this season, probably, maybe, I don't know. I'm looking forward to the Rebels tie-ins, but I watched those shows. So of course I'm going to be interested. Most of the planet hasn't.
Yeah,
so
I've never seen any of
it's
that.
weird how it's weird to me how they're dedicating so many resources to broaden a small part, a small.
And they're doing it so poorly. And they're doing it so poorly.
And they're doing it so poorly. Yeah, that's it. Well, I saw the thing under the water and I thought Belrog, and then I saw the other thing in the. What was it? Brundle spider or something? Is that what we're going for with this? Brundle spider. It was like, but I thought, okay, they're just ripping off monsters from other, things. And I was like, do we really need another, Balrog?
Also,
what about the Pirates of the Caribbean pirate?
Exactly.
Avast. Yeah. Did you guys notice how they gave Bo-Katan the Darksaber back? Without her having to fight Mando for it.
Yeah. This is the prosumer version of a lightsaber. Is that what this is?
This is a special lightsaber.
Yeah,
special lightsaber.
Yeah.
You have to, in order to own it, you have to fight and kill the person who
or
you
defeat
want
the
it
person.
from, or defeat them. Which is like when I bought mine, my UPS driver came up and I had to fight him in the street.
I think she gave it back to him.
No, she didn't.
Well, then she can't have it.
Well, you told the writers that, Vader.
Well, the mechanical spider guy defeated the Mandalorian and disarmed him, and then she defeated him with the Darksaber. So therefore, now she gets to keep it.
I mean, I'll admit I've only watched the episode once, and I haven't had a chance to really dive into the stuff about it. But okay, whatever. But also notice how she was wielding it compared to Mando earlier in the episode, where he could barely lift it and stuff like that. It was all very weird. Now, Odin, I want to go to you for a second, because news came out this week that basically Patty Jenkins and Kevin Feige's Star Wars movies are now off the table. They're completely canceled. They're still going forward with Taika Waititi's Star Wars movie, which it looks like he's going to star in, as well as write and direct. And I believe Damon Lindelof's Star Wars movie is still in development, is still going forward. But Bob Iger basically came out and said that, we've kind of fucked Star Wars up, so we're going to be really careful with the movies we're going to be putting out. But in the meantime, enjoy our TV shows. So what's your take on the state of Star Wars and what Disney's plan for it is right now?
It's just not good, because if part of your plan is, you know what, I'm going to keep Taika Waititi after what he did with Thor: Love and Thunder, I mean, that's not really a safe bet at this point in time. If you went back, and I know that not everyone liked Ragnarok, but if you went back to that time, more people would be like, oh, okay, And I think that's probably what their mindset was when they were first like in conversation with him. But now it's like with the, Thor: Love and Thunder, it's showing he has no self-control. And people are over his shtick or just over his nonsense. But kind of going back to this episode, that's one of the most frustrating parts about it too, is actually, I'm pretty sure I fell asleep because I know I watched the episode, but then I also don't remember most of the things towards the end that people are mentioning because I think it just put me to sleep. And it's really sad because there are so many interesting things that they could do. I mean, the whole Darksaber thing, when you look at this show, it looks and sounds so stupid. Everything about it, you're like, okay, what the hell is this? And then when you go back to the cartoons where they, actually go into that and they give you some more background, it's just so much more interesting. So I'm very sad that their way of trying to introduce these things into the live action has just failed on so many different levels because there's so many things that they could be doing with it. I mean, the concept of a civil war on a planet is already interestingly enough. The concept of a planet being destroyed, right, is also something where there's a lot of interest there. And what they've done, kind of going back to Vader's point, is they're getting certain things right that don't matter, right? Meaning they are focused on, hey, did you see how we're using practical effects and using practical suits for these characters? Look how awesome this is. Look how great of a throwback this is. But then they're relying that much more heavily on, the volume or whatever it's called, for all their other sequences where everything looks so fake and so artificial. And so I think that the current state of Star Wars is just in such a bad state that Bob Iger coming out and saying this, it's like, no, unless you're getting rid of Kathleen Kennedy, unless you are actually putting someone in who not just loves Star Wars, but actually knows it and can run it. Because as much as I like a lot of the stuff that Favreau has done in the past, like with his film history, and as much as I do like some of the things that some of the other creators that they have done, what they have done now, what they have done more recently has just lost any of those good graces that were there. I don't trust Favreau to do anything with Star Wars going forward. I don't trust Filoni to do anything with Star Wars going forward because of what we've been getting. And so, Star Wars is in a terrible state. And the next movie, whatever it is, I don't see how it could possibly be good.
All right, Brian, what were your thoughts on this episode?
Jesus, I don't even know how to follow that, to be honest. You asked him a simple question and he wrote like an essay. So I'll say this. I'm disappointed, and I do not think that I have a sneaky suspicion that Filoni and Favreau are just not as involved as they were when they started this thing. They must be leaving it to other people, and they're just taking a producer role. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if in a year or two from now or a year from now, we find out that Filoni is working on some other like live action Pinocchio or something or whatever that they're doing, and so he's on it in name only. Maybe he's approving some things, but I don't think I can't believe that he's making these decisions because it's like a different show. It's like a show that's made in the image of the previous show. It's just not. The main character is not making the same decisions that the main character would have made in the first two seasons. In fact, he's making decisions that are reversing his previous character development, right? So I can't believe that like the original Filoni and Favreau would go through all that effort and then start reversing that character development in this season and do it poorly. I gotta assume that they're just not very involved.
There's also a serious lack of bounty hunting in this bounty hunter show.
Yeah.
But
we do get Funko Pop pirates. So
now, did the writers change? I mean, or maybe they're just
Favreau's the one writing all these episodes.
I saw his name in the credits, but I mean, is it possible that maybe somebody else is doing? He's just getting the credit for it because I don't know reasons.
No,
I think
fan base.
There's no way the union rules would allow that.
I feel like Favreau kind of got knocked back a couple pegs when they fired Gina. I feel like they had an outline set up and a direction going that involved her and her character and everything, and they had to rewrite it all on the fly with a quickness.
That's a good point.
Able to be able to change the direction of these things, and that's why we started going down this Bo-Katan route.
Well, wasn't the whole point of the Book of Boba Fett because like all their plans for season 3 of Mando got shot, and they didn't have time to like readjust before like the next season was going to be there, so they had to put something out.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, but that's terrible.
Yeah. Real quick, I remembered what I forgot in our Picard discussion. So Red Letter Media came out with their reviews of episodes 2, 3, and 4. And Mike and Rich, who have been very historically down on Kurtzman era Trek, it looks like they've come around. Rich is still cautiously optimistic, but it seems like Mike is like, I'm just glad that the writing isn't stupid anymore. So like they came out, they gave a glowing review to the first 4 episodes. And in fact, Rich even made a joke. He's like, I don't know how to talk about stuff I like. He's like, if I hate something, awesome. I have like three pages of notes, and then he showed his notes for this episode. It was like 4 bullet points. 4 bullet points. He's like, this is all I had to say. So if Red Letter Media is on board, you know that they're doing something right. All right, let's get to the point of our thumbnail and talk about the latest trailer for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem.
Oh man, I forgot all about
that. I invited Tom from Midnight's Edge to come on because he's a big TMNT fan, but I think this trailer actually gave him a stroke. And so like he's not able to attend. But basically there's a new Paramount animated TMNT thing. And so because it's Paramount, we can't actually show anything because like they'll copy strike us because they're assholes. But if you look at the animation style, it's very similar to like a cross between claymation and the Into the Spider-Verse stuff. The turtles are all very like kind of like different, unique. Donatello's wearing glasses. They got very teeny voices, like teenage sounding voices. But the biggest thing,
especially Don.
Yeah, especially Don.
I think one of them is voiced by a girl, right?
I believe Donatello is voiced by a girl, but the big thing that's making the rounds here is the new April O'Neil, and let's see if I can find her in here somewhere.
Velma O'Neil.
Velma O'Neil. Okay, so here's where she is. So they've not only race swapped her, but they also made her body positive. The internet's been going crazy over this thing by saying like they've gone woke, and this is a Seth Rogen joint, so like like he's spearheading this type of inclusivity stuff. But a lot of people on Twitter were saying like, well, the original April O'Neil was based off of Eric Eastman's ex-girlfriend who was mixed race, and like there's this big debate online as to whether or not April O'Neil was originally black and got race swapped to a white redhead, and they're just like fixing it by putting her back to the original thing. So I asked you guys to watch this trailer beforehand, so you have something to talk about. Odin, let's start with you. What's your take on this?
As soon as I saw Seth Rogen, I immediately checked out because I was just like, I have no interest in seeing what he does. The last time he did anything with animation, I believe, was Santa Inc.
Santa Inc.
Yeah. So it's just like, okay, are we? And obviously this is Nickelodeon, so it's gonna be a kids show, theoretically. But I mean, even modern day kids shows usually aren't even really for kids these days.
I believe it's a movie.
Oh, it's a movie. Okay, yeah. I mean, ultimately, Seth Rogen makes me have no interest in it whatsoever. But I mean, it kind of just goes against, it's like trying to rewrite history in a way. Where it's like, well, they're teenagers, and so therefore we need to have teenage voices. We haven't had that, before. And we're gonna make up this story about the original character of April, and so we're going to go back to that. And it's like, yes, but what you have done is, one, I think you're just making that crap up to try to justify your decisions. But then also, you are now taking things in a direction that no one's going to recognize. Like, if they weren't wearing the bands and being talking turtles, I don't think anyone would recognize this as Ninja Turtles. You know, it's just like everything about it. If you were just to listen to it, like anyone who maybe is used to listening to it and like didn't actually watch it, heard this, they would say, no, this can't be Ninja Turtles. You must be pulling my leg, because nothing about it screams turtles.
Right.
All right. Professor Sean, what's your take on this trailer? Were you able to hold the vomit in?
I loved it. No. So I was already like pretty much grown up by the time this franchise was even launched. I never really cared about these characters, and I watched this trailer and I'm like, I mean, it looks bad, but that doesn't mean that every other incarnation I've ever seen of this franchise wasn't bad too. I'm just disinterested. Put it this way, whatever new they're injecting into it is certainly not going to grab my interest based on.
Are you saying you didn't like Ninja Rap?
Never liked any of it. I always thought, how can you take 4 words that are so dissident from one another and combine them into the title of a franchise? It's like Ninja and Turtles and Mutant and I'm like, so like I said, they're certainly not going to grab me with anything new that they're putting into it. And I watched this and I was like, yeah, that's about right. I mean, especially and like what Odin said, as soon as you see Seth Rogen's name in there, just know where they're going with it, and that's all you need to know. You don't need to go any further.
So Brian, as the queer representative on the panel and the Salty Nerd Saturdays gender inclusive representative,
Gender shield, right?
Yes. What's your take on this?
What's up with the ginger side, bro? What's going on? Why is all redheaded characters being killed off or race swapped? Well, what's Hollywood's problem with the soulless gingers? Because I'm not joking. You can go look. At this point, it's a meme. Every character in pop culture that has red hair is being swapped out for another race. I don't understand it. And you know what the most offensive thing to me is not that they're changing the character so drastically. It's that you also made him frumpy. April O'Neil is supposed to be attractive. What are you doing? You're messing with my childhood.
Yeah, they go from Megan Fox to
attractiveness away. You're killing me.
And yet it makes you almost long for Megan Fox, where even she was not great casting either.
Megan Fox.
It's like they took Mary Jane Watson in Spider-Man and replaced her with Whoopi Goldberg.
That's what
I don't think Peter Parker is that strong to grab her.
I mean,
up
honest to God,
her.
guys, it's ridiculous. But the whole thing is, but here's the thing: we have to be really careful about how we talk about this show, because we don't want to hurt Seth Rogen's fifis.
Right.
Okay,
God,
because we're not allowed to have criticism and talk about his stuff, because
Seth Rogen's a bitch.
We don't know how hard that they work to entertain us, and all of us lame YouTube critics, we're just a bunch of idiots and morons, and we have no right to be able to talk bad about his things.
This is actually a real thing from Joe Russo. True film criticism is dead. The internet, social media has given every asshole a megaphone to spout their opinion without any knowledge of the filmmaking process required. And the only way to break through the noise is for them to be nasty. Seth Rogen is right. It fucking sucks. And Seth Rogen's quote is, "I think if most critics knew how much it hurts the people that made the things that they are writing about, they would second guess the way they write these things." Now, let me just say this. If you go to a restaurant and you're served a big, terrible meal of shit that tastes terrible, and then like the chef comes back, is like, "I slaved over a hot stove all day for this meal." Are you still going to appreciate it? Is that a restaurant that more people are going to come to, even though the food sucks? But they work really hard to make the bad food.
Yeah, that statement is basically "eat your slop, consumers, and shut up."
Yeah.
That's it.
Well, the other thing that it goes to is, it is elitism. But the other thing is, he doesn't seem to worry about hurting anybody's fifis when he says things or does things to trash things that we grew up with. Like Christmas and all this other stuff. He doesn't really care about our feelings at that point, but we all have to pay attention to his.
I mean, dude, if you're religious, then that guy's a dickhead. He trashes religion every chance he gets.
Yeah.
You do not need to be a mechanic to know there's something wrong with your car, right?
right.
Like, just because you aren't familiar with the filmmaking process doesn't mean you don't know a piece of shit movie or TV show when you see it.
Hey, Jerry, I know you worked on a car for a long time, but It doesn't have tires. What should I do about that?
It's like, man, do you know how hard I had to work to remove those tires?
I know.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to
Man.
criticize you, but I can't physically drive away, Jerry. What do you think I should do? God.
God.
Also, I'm sharing an image from. So this is the April O'Neil Wikipedia. This is the first. So this is 1986 comic edition of the character. What I see is a redhead.
That's
so whatever
awesome.
claim they're making doesn't actually match reality.
Oh, the claimer. Oh, yeah. April O'Neil's always been mixed race. What? Nope. I'm sorry. I've been reading the comics and watching the cartoons and movies since I was like 8 years old, and you're telling me what you're telling me is just not factual. It doesn't add up. I've never seen a version of April O'Neil that was anything but a busty redhead. Sorry.
So real quick, we got a super sticker from E. Clay Tomlinson for $1.99. Thank you, E. Clay Tomlinson.
That's
we
awesome.
really appreciate it. But we got another super chat from the Astro Nerd Boy for $5, who says Eric July debunked the whole notion of April initially being black. He pointed out where the comic creators stated she was always white. So the creators of TMNT themselves said that she was always a white lady.
Wild.
All I ever think about nowadays when I hear about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was it was literally one of the first comic books I ever bought when I started collecting comic books back in the day. And I don't have them anymore. I mean, it's the original black and white versions of Turtles. And they're in nerd heaven with all the rest of my nerd stuff that I could probably retire on if I still had.
If you could find it,
Oh my God, dude!
I'll tell you though, like I used to read those original Turtles comics, and they were really freaking good. Like much more adult than you would expect, given the cartoon series. All right, guys. So that brings us to the end of our show. So I want to thank my fantastic panel of nerds for coming here and bitching and moaning about the current state of pop culture with me. Odin, where can people find you, and do you have any final thoughts you'd like to share with the audience?
Well, last night was as disturbing for me as it was for all of you if you watch Friday Night Tights. But you can check me out over at OMB Reviews on all of the places, Twitter, YouTube, Locals, Odyssey, Rumble. Oh, goodness gracious. Anyway, but also tomorrow night, I am doing my 5th annual Oscars boycott show, dubbed the Raven Awards.
Nice.
So voting closed last night, and just for everyone who did vote, thank you. We had over 340 people vote, which is a record for voting. And so, very, very interesting to see the results, and I cannot wait to share them with everybody. So tomorrow, 7 p.m. Eastern time, will be the Wednesday Raven Awards, the 5th annual Wednesday Raven Awards. So thank you, as always, for having me on.
That's awesome, and thank you for being here. We appreciate it. Speaking of being here and appreciating it, Professor Sean Collette, the Crabapple Critic, thank you for coming and sharing your controversial, or maybe not so controversial opinions.
I'm in the minority.
So where can people find out more about you, and do you have any final thoughts you'd like to share?
Well, you can find me at the College of Southern Nevada. I'm the program director for the videography and film program, and I'm going to be moving into, we're going to be starting to teach anamorphic cinematography, which is very, very important, because I think everything we talked about was shot in anamorphics, along with virtual production. So that is also relevant to what we've been seeing. So if you're in the Vegas area and you want to learn about filmmaking, CSN is the place to be.
Fantastic. All right, Brian from the Popcast, where can people find out more about you, and what do you guys got going on? I believe you have a live stream on Monday now.
Yes, we have 2 live streams on Monday and Thursday, and the Monday one is called Raw Rant 2.0, and it's usually featuring a ton of people like this panel. I think this week, I don't even know who we have on this week, to be honest. I haven't asked Shane, but we're going to have people on this week for sure. I'm sure one of the Salty Nerd guys will be there. And that's at 2:00 this week, but the following week it's at 1:00 because we got a special guest for that week, and they had to come on. Anyways, and then of course our reviews next Thursday on the Prime channel and on Unleashed.
All right, Matt Vader 74. Any final thoughts? And what do we have coming out with the Salty Nerd podcast this week?
Well, yesterday we just got done releasing our podcast about John Wick Part 1. So that was a really good movie, a lot of fun to talk about. And it was also, I think, the first video we released in the new place, in the new studio. Great. So that was really kind of fun to do. Not sure what else we got going on this week, Matt. But you can find me.
We got our live streams on Tuesday.
Oh yeah, that's right. After we record the shows on Tuesday, and after we record the shows, which you can hear on Spaces live, we do our separate Table Salt Tuesday live stream with the four of us in the studio, and that's a lot of fun. And we generally pick a topic, but it's mostly just a lot of banter and us interacting with our friends in the chat. So it's fun stuff.
I believe the next episode we have coming out is a review of a Korean sci-fi movie called Young E.
Oh yeah. Young E, good stuff.
Yeah, so we got a lot of stuff on our plate, but I want to give thanks to everyone who contributed to the stream today, including Gavin Blackburn, the Astro Nerd Boy, very generous of you today, Astro Nerd Boy, Mexican Iron Man, the Dork Knight, Kenneth LaRoche, sorry, Bob Dorsey, our new top super chatter, Tommy Reviews, and E. Clay Tomlinson. You guys are awesome. And also thank you to all of our YouTube members for being here in the chat. We really appreciate the support that you guys give us. And also, if you want to get some exclusive stuff, head over to saltynerdclub.com. That's our Patreon. And we're doing actual commentaries for Star Trek, the original series. So if you want to see our live reactions and thoughts to some really, really good Star Trek, head over there.
I'm there.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And the videos in the new studio, we got a new format for them, so they're turning out really, really good. And plus we've got a ton of back catalog stuff where we did exclusive stuff just for club members, and we're going to start doing exclusive stuff for YouTube members as well. But be sure to check that stuff out. And as always, everyone, we really appreciate you being here. Tune in next week, same salty time, same salty channel, for more Salty Saturdays as we bitch about new stuff going on in the current pop culture with new guest panelists. I believe next week we have the Perfect Turd Podcast guys booked. So they specialize in really, really bad movies, so it should be good.
Awesome.
Anyway,
hey,
everyone,
can I just give a shameless plug real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
For our Media Fest at the College of Southern Nevada's North Las Vegas campus, April 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th. It's open to the public. Come in and see everything that our media technologies department does. That's graphics, film, and video. Film and video and photography. So just come out and check us out and see what you think. But anyway, also keep up with the Salty Nerd Podcast, guys. You guys are doing a great job. You guys really rocking it out. So I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys are doing next.
I appreciate that.
All right.
And everyone stick around for our latest sponsor, Extra Wallets. This is a commercial that Brian and Shane made. And remember, use the promo code ThePopcast to get 25% off your order. Thank you all so much for tuning in, and stay salty, my friends.
All right.
We just threw away our old wallets. Want to know why? Because we just discovered the most efficient, smart wallet in the world. Extra has revolutionized the wallet, and we will never go back to bifold. We are so impressed. Extra wallets are super slim and sleek. They are half the size of a conventional bifold wallet. Compact and modular, they hold 12 cards or more, plus cash. And that means no more stuffing that bulky, worn-out bifold wallet into your back pocket. Forget sitting on that uncomfortable lump and slide Extra into your front pocket instead. This high-quality wallet combines Italian leather, space-grade aluminum, and carbon fiber. Plus, it includes built-in RFID blocking to protect you from wireless theft. And you know how hard it can be to replace all of your cards if your card is stolen. Extra includes a tracking card to help you keep an eye on your belongings with a map, and you can even ring it for location assistance. This is the last wallet you'll ever buy. To get an Extra wallet like ours, visit shop.extra.com/thepopcast. Get 25% off your order when you use code ThePopcast at checkout. Join the wallet revolution and upgrade your quality of life with Extra today.